everyone. Today I'm joined by SMUSA President Bryn to talk about all things SMUSA fees and services. SMUSA fees are paid by every SMUSA student each semester, and we wanted to ensure transparency and make sure that students knew exactly why those fees are being charged. Firstly, Bryn, I'm hoping you could shed some light on how SMUSA fees are decided and our involvement with the budget process.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Sam. So the first thing I'd mention is that every student that's a part of St. Mary's, if you're a full-time student, you pay $165, so $82.50 per semester in fees to SMUSA. And really we take this money and then we turn this into programming and initiatives and budget lines that can help students on campus. So really when you break down that $165, that goes into a number of different funds and initiatives. So an example would be that everyone pays $5 out of that $165 for what we call the campus fund. And really what that means is that any event that takes place in the Goresbrook throughout the year is free for any student to enter. So you never have to pay cover to come to one of our concerts or events. And this is a way or an example of a way that we take the student fees that every student pays and turn that back into programs and initiatives that are available to all students. So there's a bunch more of those fees, whether they go towards things like our mental health and well-being fund, our global initiative budget line, as well as supporting programs like the Pride Center and the Women's Center and spaces for students on our campus as well. And really any change that would happen in those fees has to be passed through a referendum. So if there is a new fee that we wanted to add or a new budget line that we would want to create, then in our elections, at the same time when we elect our president or members of our board of directors, we would also put in a referendum question asking if students consented to that fee, basically. So it's not something that we can change year after year depending on whether we need more money from students. It's something that is very much at the will of our membership, which is the entire student body. And then in terms of the university's budget process, that's a little bit of a different story. So SMUSA is very involved in helping to kind of oversee the creation of the university's budget. So every year we have 2 student representatives on the budget advisory committee, which is kind of it's a confidential university committee that basically talks about where we need to invest money within the university, what sort of programs we need to focus on. And a big conversation every year is, whether there are going to be any increases or changes to tuition for both domestic and international students. So we have student reps, and that includes me this year, as well as our Director of Marketing and Communications, Kevin, sits on that committee. And we also have a few opportunities over the course of the year to basically present our priorities and talk about what we think the university should be focusing on from a budget perspective. And usually a big part of that is talking about, programs that we think the university should create, or maybe staff positions that they should create in order to support students better. And obviously a big thing we talk about is trying to make sure that tuition stays fair for all of our students. And so the Budget Advisory Committee basically spends all year kind of preparing what the principles of the budget are going to be. And then eventually the university's Board of Governors, which Sam, you and I both sit on the board, that ends up coming to their committees, and we have 4 student representatives on the Board of Governors to be able to talk about the proposed budget from the university and basically what impact that's going to have on students. And then we advocate for any changes to be made before the budget ends up being passed. And so I know that's a lot of information, but on the university side, basically we're a part of the Budget Advisory Committee throughout the year. And then really between February and April is when the university budget is formally created. And so we're very involved in that process as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. I know that this year the budget process is still ongoing, but are there any examples in years past that you may know of that have been brought forward by SMUSA in terms of proposals?
Yeah, so something that we've brought forward in years past was some more targeted money for experiential learning. So SMUSA actually has our own budget line called the Student Experiential Learning Fund, where if you're going to a conference, or maybe you're going to be able to share your research at some sort of event, then you can apply for up to $500 of funding in 1 year to be able to go and take part in that event. And so we thought that that was kind of a really good way of getting students engaged more in the community and taking advantage of opportunities. So I think it was 2 years ago and last year we had advocated for the university to kind of make a formal investment in experiential learning to kind of back up the work that we were doing as well. So that's an example of kind of when we hear something from students that they're interested in, and then we try and get the university to back that up.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that. This process is something that SMUSA is involved in on a yearly basis, and it's really paramount that we have student voices at that table. So thanks so much for all that info. This year has been a little bit different for SMUSA fees. We're also hoping to save some money for students given the financial difficulties of COVID-19. One area where we were able to advocate for money-saving initiative was our work on allowing students to opt out of their UPass. So there's a tremendous amount of work that went into this from our general manager and Bryn, and I met several times with the mayor in order to help move it forward, and we were thankfully able to get that option for students. Bryn, were there any other changes to advocating for fees this year?
Yeah, so this was a really important topic for us when we kind of all started our terms in May, because we know that students were struggling to find jobs over the summer and struggling to think about having to pay their tuition in the fall. And generally, I think everyone was under a bit of financial stress. So we know that a lot of students were starting to think more about the fees that they were paying outside of just tuition. And we really tried to respond to that and make kind of some of these options a bit more affordable. So a big one was the UPass. That's always been something that's mandatory for students, as you mentioned, and there was a lot of great work on your part and by the rest of the team as well to get that changed, that you could opt out of it this year if you weren't going to use it. And another example of that is typically for international students, the SMUSA health plan is mandatory. So if you're going to be here in Canada, you have to have a health plan kind of through SMUSA. And so that was something that we changed this year as well, that if you were an international student studying at home and not coming to Canada or not coming to Halifax, then you were able to opt out of the health plan, which we know was able to save a number of students a few $100s off of their total tuition and fee cost. And another thing that we've really focused on this year is advocating for a decrease or an elimination of the fees that students pay that they couldn't access. So a great example of that was every year students pay a sport and recreation fee, which basically contributes to your gym membership at the Homburg Center. And so when we realized that students weren't going to be able to use the gym over the summer and weren't able to use it for a chunk of the fall semester as well, we advocated for that fee to be waived. So students actually didn't have to pay for that for the spring, summer, or fall semesters when the gym was shut. And so that's an example of kind of where we saw a fee that students weren't going to be able to access, and we worked with the university to get that eliminated. And there's definitely some other conversations that we've had this year in terms of advocating for fees, because, a lot of students have been wondering, when I pay $11 a course for my recreation facilities renewal fee, what the heck does that mean? And so we've been having some conversations with the university about being a little bit more transparent about what those fees are going towards and how they're supporting students. And so this year, for the first time ever, there's actually a breakdown on the university website about each of the fees that you pay as a student, including the fees that come towards SMUSA as well. And it gives you a description of exactly how that fee is being used. So this year, going forward with COVID, we're going to make sure that any fees that students aren't able to access or they're not seeing the benefits of, we're going to advocate that those are decreased or eliminated until we're all able to be back on campus and accessing everything that is here to offer in Halifax.
Absolutely. And I think that fee breakdown was really critical for ensuring transparency for students this year. So really happy to see that. The last few things I was kind of hoping to touch on were about SMUSA services and how SMUSA is essential to the university. So maybe you could kind of touch on some of the SMUSA services that we have for students.
Yeah, that's great. And we have a number of physical services that are available to students. So, the first one that comes to mind for me is the Goresbrook Lounge, which has unfortunately been shut for most of the year, but we're very close to get that back up and running for the rest of this semester and hopefully leading into the summer as well. We also have a few more services in the Student Center, including the information desk. So, if you're a student that's picked up your UPass or, sometimes they're getting kind of information for your health plan or anything that way, then you might have come to the information desk and chatted with one of our lovely staff in terms of getting some of the information that you need. So that's really the first stop for students to kind of understand what SMUSA is and to learn a little bit more about us. And that's also where you can book for the Husky Patrol, which is our Safe Ride Home program. So if you're on campus and you're looking to get a ride back to your apartment, you're able to sign up at the information desk. And we have a few vans that will take students home in the HRM for free. So it's kind of like a free taxi service for you that way. And we also have a number of academic services. So we have a tutor database that's available on our website that matches students to tutors for particular courses. We also have the Experiential Learning Fund that I mentioned that can be used to support any academic things that students are interested in. Again, whether that's traveling for a conference or paying the registration fee for an event that you want to take part in. And we also have a number of other academic services like the SMUSA Book Exchange group on Facebook, where you can find textbooks from other students and purchase them usually at a bit of a cheaper rate. And we also do a lot of academic advocacy. So if you're ever having a challenge with a professor or an issue with a course, you can always come and chat to either myself or our VP Academic or anyone else on our team to get a little bit of support in getting the help that you need from the university. And then on the other side, we offer a number of different events and initiatives, and we support our societies as well throughout the year. So kind of the way that I like to describe SMUSA services is that we have a lot of things that are in place to help make the university experience fun and to help connect you to other students and to members of the community. But we also have a number of services for when things maybe start to go wrong or you're having some challenges. And that's a big part of what we do, is supporting students through those hard times as well. And the last service that I think we offer is, a number of volunteering opportunities for students, whether that's becoming a pack leader and supporting our Welcome Week program every year. And we also have a number of employment opportunities. So all of those services that I mentioned, like the Goresbrook Husky Patrol or the Information Desk, we hire over 100 staff every year to fill those positions. And that's in addition to the roles that you can take on with the executive team every year as well, or by running in our elections. So yeah, we employ almost or over 100 students every year and are one of the biggest employers on campus that way. So I'd say that's probably the last of our big services that we offer back to students.
Absolutely, and everything looks a little bit different this year, but in a normal year, all of those services will be up and running, and hopefully that'll be the case next year as well. You can also head to our SMUSA website and check out all this information as well. I'll put the link below in the description. The last thing that I want to touch on was kind of briefly on how essential SMUSA is to SMU. So you mentioned a lot of those services and things. I'm wondering if there's anything you'd like to say on that.
Yeah, so I'd mentioned that SMUSA is an independent body from the university, so really our main responsibility is to advocate and support the students that are here, and we've been fortunate to have a really good relationship with the university, and we collaborate on a number of initiatives and projects every year. But it's also really our job to fight for students when students need representation and need a voice within the university as well. So when you think about kind of how student unions and student associations started in Canada, it was built around providing services that the universities weren't going to provide. So, way back in the day when students needed access to a health plan, when they needed access to transportation, that's really where student unions started, was trying to provide some of those services back to their student body. And so that's still what we try and do today is, most of the services that a lot of students recognize, again, like the Husky Patrol or your UPass or your health plan, that's stuff that's provided by us. And not necessarily from the university. And really, our executive team and the many students that we have working with us, those tend to be the students that are really at the table advocating and fighting for students as a part of a number of university committees. So really, whenever there's student voice, or the university's looking for student perspectives, they're coming to me or they're coming to our team and asking for what we think about certain things. So I think between, our executive team of 6 people, we probably sit on somewhere around 70 to 80 committees within the university and the community. And so we're working hard to make sure that the issues that students are facing and their ideas are being heard within the university. And the last thing I would mention is that we really tend to be kind of the first line of contact for students when things start to go wrong. So, because we're independent from the university, if you're having a challenge in residence or again with a professor or with a job that you have on campus, we can really jump in and try and help students to the best of our abilities. And so, that's really the main thing that we do is making sure that if anything happens to students that isn't so great, that we're there to support them and help get them the help that they need.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's the end of my questions. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, anything about budget or fees or anything like that for students.
I don't think so. Just that, we're continuing to work to make sure that the fees that students pay are as transparent as possible, just so you know exactly what the value is that you're getting out of everything that you're paying, both to SMUSA and to the university. So I'm hopeful that that'll continue to become even more transparent in years to come, and that students will be getting, the best value they can for what they're paying.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam.